Okay, since I was last on camera, you can see that all my prep is basically done. And sometimes with red, I don't know why the camera doesn't like it, so that might get a little distorted at times. So I poured my shower pan, as I said earlier in the previous little snippet, poured it, I just slopped it in there, as I say, and then I screeded it out, so I have quite a few levels. A little 2-foot level is what I usually use on a tub to shower conversion because it fits perfect in this space, and this space, and that space 3 times over there. I have a little 1-foot level for both of the sides, and then I have a 5-foot level go on the back and the front. I'm trying to get as level as possible around the edges, but still with a profound slope that goes down. And there is one. So it would definitely pass a marble test. If you put a marble on there, it would definitely go down that way. Again, what I said before about this 1/4 inch per foot applies really, really well to plumbing. But you'll notice that water will still sit on your tile if all you do is a 1/4 inch per foot. And if you're very adherent to all that. And there's a lot of people out there that are very adherent to rules, and you must do this and you must do that, and yeah, I go with what works for me, and this has worked for me for years and years and years. So anyway, getting back to the prep. What I'm trying to do here is if there's any little parts of this procedure that you want to know about, look on my channel, scroll through my channel, scroll through other tilers' channels. You'll find out the process of how to set a pan liner, how to pour the shower pan, set the drain, yada yada yada. So what I'm basically trying to do here is 2 things. One, if there are certain things that are beyond you, say you hired somebody to only do your shower pan, but you want to do all the tiling and the rest of it, then that happens with me sometimes. I get hired just to do the shower pan, and then the customer wants to do their own thing, and so that's one reason. The other reason is when you're watching your contractor, if you decide not to do it, you're watching your contractor do these things. These are the things that I usually video to be adherent to. So if it does go south, as I just got an email the other day from a lady, unfortunately, whose bathroom went south on basically the last day, and she's beside herself, and I'm beside myself because I can't believe still people let it get to the point where there's no return. Anyway, getting back to here, I'm going to quit going on my rant and just get to the things that I want to cover on here. Wallboard. People ask me all the time, what kind of wallboard do you use? It does not matter. My opinion, my personal and professional opinion, after having done this so many years, your wallboard is irrelevant. If I could have 1/2 inch cardboard and I put a waterproofer, and that doesn't, it could be RedGard, it could be Aqua Defense, it could be Curtis Luter products, it could be anything. If you put a barrier up there for water not to get through, then your wallboard is absolutely 100% irrelevant what it is, what the makeup is. If you don't believe in your product, then yes, it might matter to you what wallboard you put up, but again, you're assuming you're going to make a mistake, and I don't. I don't. Everywhere I put RedGard, I'm adherent to at least 2 coats. If I have enough, I'll do 3. And everywhere I put RedGard, there's absolutely no way that water could penetrate my wall. So not only does it not matter what wallboard I put up, but it also is irrelevant because I know water will never penetrate through my wall. So it has to get through, first it has to get through the tile and or your grout. Then it has to hit the wall. Then it has to find a place to get into the wall. And that could take years and years and years before that one little area that you missed. Well, anyway. Some of this is common sense. To me, sometimes overrides, it must be this way, it must be that way, or the sky is falling, as I've said on other videos, and also about the shower pan. I'm not going to get into the pre-slope thing. You can go on to all my other videos and hear me rave on about pre-slopes and all that stuff. There's another tile guy out there that made a comment on one of his videos. I guess somebody had commented about me and how I don't do things by the rules. And then this particular tile guy said, yeah, even if I try and tell him there's proof, he ignores the proof. but yet there is none. There's no proof out there, anything that he talks about, nothing, nada. In fact, he talks about failures. If you don't do it this way, you'll have a failure. But he never explains what the failure is. If you don't use thin set, if this particular thin set, you'll have a failure. If you don't trowel it out a certain way, you'll have a failure. If you don't do all these things, you'll have a failure. Yet I've never run into any failure. So, you know, again, I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I do things by common sense. And if you're going to say that there's going to be a failure, present the proof. Show the proof. Show what can happen if you don't do X, Y, Z. Show what can happen. You know, that's all I'm saying. When I get into tearing showers apart, I find out how they fail. So I do everything I can to make sure that those areas are well protected. Outside of the curb is one of them. I paint at least 2 to 3 coats of RedGard, both on my curb and outside of the curb. Because usually about this far out is where I see wood rot after water has penetrated into the curb and made its way around and got into the floor material. The floor is rotted out because, well, because the curb failed. So I don't want my curb to fail, and I build it in such a way that it won't. But just in case it does, for whatever reason beyond my control, then I have a little extra layer of protection on top of my Durarock outside. And if it doesn't matter if it was Durarock or cement or whatever, I still do that. Just a little extra layer. I put 3 coats into my niche. A lot of people freak out about niches. They think that it gets absolutely 100% wet every time you take a shower, and I'm here to tell you it's not. I have a shower at home built basically the same way. My niche is in the same spot, and very, very little water gets into the niche. So again, there's a lot of, you must tape it and you must do this and use silicone caulk and do blah 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 because they think the sky is falling, and truly it's not. When I take my shower, I get a little spray into my niche and it just dribbles down and off, and it doesn't get as much water as you would think. But I am adherent to going above my shower head with my RedGard. As I said, there's 2 if I can afford it, if I have enough anyway. I do 3 coats of RedGard on my walls, definitely 3 coats on my curb, definitely 3 coats in the niche. So if you want to, if that's some of the questions that you have, that's just to let you know. I have a couple other videos that I did lately. Let me preface what I'm going to say. There was a time, some people have gone back on videos that I did, you know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they see where I had set my wallboard on top of my pan material. Never put your wallboard first and then pour your pan. Again, other tile setters that have videos out there, you know who I'm talking about, will still put their wallboard in and then put their mortar in, and I don't know. There's no wallboard out there that's going to be 100% waterproof, especially on the edge. So when they stick it in there, and I have other videos that will show the damage that can sometimes be 13, 14, 15 inches up your wallboard. Once you take the tile off, you see all the black mold. Anyway, so getting back to what I was trying to say, before I rudely interrupted myself, the wallboard should never go inside of there. But I used to have my wallboard sitting on the pan itself, and then I would fill in that crack, and then I would RedGard everything, and then I would only RedGard maybe 9, 10 inches outside of the perimeter. So nowadays, I'm not doing that. I've changed my methods a little bit. I've decided to leave that little gap. You can see all the way around, including, I don't know if I can get it, on the inside of the curb, so that no water could ever possibly penetrate into my curb, nor could it ever penetrate into my walls. It's impossible. When I paint my RedGard, I have a pretty thick brush, and I brush up underneath the bottom of that wallboard also, so that there is not even any type of residual moisture that can get up in there. My curb is absolutely 100% impervious to water. No water could possibly leak in. If I put my finger back here, I'm going to hit pan liner. My tile goes up under there, and then it gets grouted, and then the tile sits on top of that. And then I have another video that shows how to set the tile with a ledger board. A 12-inch tile, you put the ledger board into probably about 11.5 or so, and then run your tile up, and that last 11.5 would be set last. So I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not setting my wallboard on top of here. I don't want any possibility of water penetration up into my wallboard. So that takes care of that question if you had it. Second question I get asked a lot is, I'm doing my entire pan, I'm RedGarding my entire pan, and it doesn't matter again what the product is that you're waterproofing your pan with. And I didn't used to do that. I just felt like maybe 8, 9 inches off of the wall, would give it some breathing room. You know, you'd have the bare mortar and then the tile sitting on top of it. So if water ever penetrated into your pan, it could only get close to the drain and never over here. And despite the wicking process, that I suppose the pan could still get wet going into here and it could wick over there. Most undoubtedly, yes, it would. But that's what I used to do. Now I do the entire thing. And the reason that I was apprehensive about doing the entire thing is there's what's called a mold sandwich. So for example, if you did a sheathing behind your wallboard and then you put your wallboard on and then you waterproof the top of it, if water ever gets into that, you're going to have an issue because water can't escape. It can get in, but it can't escape. So you created what they call a mold sandwich, potentially. It doesn't, there's no science to this. It's not going to happen on every application. Every application is different. Every tile setter does things a different way. You know, conditions of your shower, etc., make a big difference. So the idea, in my mind's eye, is I don't want to create a mold sandwich down here. So if water ever gets into the pan material, the mortar, that it has no egress, and that the water, if there's enough of it, I suppose, you know, could cause mold and mildew to come up through into the grout of the floor. I've since then decided that probably could happen, but the chances of it happening are extremely rare, and so I'm more comfortable now painting my entire floor. And so this shower is actually functional right now with no tile on it whatsoever. Not now, of course, because the RedGard hasn't dried. Oh, by the way, when you put RedGard in on your walls, it's going to be pink and then it's going to dry a dark red. So this is actually my second coat. Again, third coat here, third coat on the niche, and so it's not completely dry. But during the curing process and all that stuff, it will become permanent. It's not going anywhere, and you could take a shower in it theoretically with no tile on it. That's the idea, and that's what that's kind of what I've kind of adjusted to through my years of doing this stuff. I've adjusted to some things, not a whole lot. They have to make sense to me in order for me to get on board with it. Anyway, without going on too much further, I hope this answers some of your questions. Again, this video is not really how to do something necessarily, how to put a shower valve in, how to build a niche. I have videos on that. I have videos on how to put wallboard up. I have videos on all the stuff that I've done so far. I have videos on. So you can search through my channel and find those videos on the how-to portion of that. But this is kind of more or less a Q&A session. As I go along on an actual job, I'm kind of answering a bunch of questions, hopefully, that you guys already have, and that way I don't have as many comments because I've answered it already. The next phase is the tile. This is actually a honed marble. It's a nice tile, and it's water resistant. It's slip resistant is what I'm getting at. So slip resistant is very good for a shower. This is going to go on that floor, and it's going to go, I believe, this way, because the tile is going to also go that way. And so that will go next. That will be done after all this dries and cures and everything. This tile will go on. It will get grouted. And then, as I said before, I put a ledger board up around, and then I start running my wall tile up. And then the last one goes last. The last tile, or sorry, first tile goes last. By the way, this is the first time I'm going to be using my DeWalt. If you go back, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos, you're going to see where I had finally broke down and bought a DeWalt, and I'm really excited to use it because I used my friend's older one, and now I have a brand spanking new one. So this is the first job that I'll be doing using my new DeWalt saw, and I will take a little video of that too along the way. So and I will add it to this. And this is the next day. The tile was set. Again, just a little word to the wise. I'm not trying to do a how-to video here, as I've said already before in all the other little clips. I'm just showing little tricks to kind of help you along. So I set the tile. I have other videos on that. I grouted the tile. I use an admix always on the floor if I have enough, or if I can get some more, then I will use it on the walls also. But the walls aren't as vulnerable as the floor is. So always use an admix on your floor. And then this should be sealed very well by the customer 3 or 4 days after I'm gone, so that all the moisture can escape from all the moisture that I introduced in every step of the way. not only the tile in this case, but also the grout. Of course, the grout's you want that to be sealed, especially with white grout. But this whole thing is natural stone, so it all has to be done. As I said before, I taper off all my tiles all around the drain, so you can't see it probably, but there's a small little drop from the tile into the drain. I just like it that way. I just always done it that way. I feel better about it. So, you know, if you want to do that also. If you notice on the back where this gap is that I mentioned, everything's grouted in the back, so that when the tile goes over, let me get a scrap tile. When the tile goes over, it's gonna sit on the wall like this, and it's gonna cover that gap. Could you run a bead of caulking back there? Yes, you most certainly could. I don't really see the point. As I said before, all the RedGard and the grout and all that stuff is in the way, and then there's going to be a vertical tile sitting on top of it, so that the water is going to run right off of the tile and onto the floor. So I don't anticipate water will ever get back there. And even if it does, it's kind of innocuous. It's not going to hurt anything. But you kind of understand where I'm coming from now with leaving this gap here so that your wallboard never touches. And as I said before, the underneath of the wallboard also gets painted with the RedGard. So just in case water happens to get up there. And I have another video on how to do that, of course. I have a video on the ledger board. My first tile will set on top of the ledger board. This is 12-inch tile. This is put up here at 11 3/4. 11 3/4 is my highest, widest spot. So because I know there's a dip there, so 11 3/4 here. By the time you get over here, it's about 11.5. I think it's 11.5 over there. But all the ledger boards are leveled off, and a very straight, true board is usually door trim or baseboard. It's just a more rigid trim that I like to use. And then, of course, as I show in another video I have on how to use a ledger board, once these screws are taken off, then some silicone caulking goes inside where the holes were before the bottom row gets set. Bottom row goes last. So I am getting ready right now to start running my tile up this area. The niche is done, by the way. Up this area all the way to the point where I'm doing my border, and then I'll stop there, do my border, and then I'll run the rest of the tile above that tomorrow. I can't do my border when it's still wet. So that's the purpose of ledger board. When all the tile is set and done, the curb is all done, everything, I'll take those boards off, and this last row of tile will go on as I show on that video. You have the tile facing out. All you do is flip it over, you mark your line, and just go watch my video. You'll see, mark your line, and when you flip it back over, it'll fit like a glove. Of course, you have to add for spacing top and bottom too, but hopefully you get something out of this portion as well. As I said, the niche is already done, so I ran the pencil around. This same floor tile went into the niche, and then I have the marble piece for the inside that I did kind of like a windowsill. Yes, it's a little mix match of the tile, but that's what my customer wants, so that's what I did. Oh, by the way, a lot of times I'm critiqued on how I do things on my tile and stuff like that, when I absolutely, it's not my shower, you understand, it's my customer's shower, so they dictate to me the types of tile, the trims, where it's cut, how it's cut, etc., etc. So please don't leave comments about, well, you could have done that better, I wouldn't have done this. Trust me, I consult with my customers every step of the way. So if you see something here that you don't like personally, you put it in the comments, it won't matter, because it's not me, it's my customer's shower, it's not your shower either. But anyway, I thought I'd mention that. Another thing I thought I'd mention too, you'll want to set some type of protection on your shower pan floor, since your shower pan floor goes first. Put protection on here. In this case it's cardboard, sometimes I put a piece of sheetrock, you know, plastic, something, but you want to protect this not only from digging into your grout, especially if it's freshly done, but also because when you're troweling out your thin set, you don't want it slopping all over, making a mess. So that's very important. I know it goes without saying, but sometimes people, they don't know, and they ask me questions like this, so yes, you would definitely do that. By the way, if you extrapolate anything out of what I've done so far, now that I'm finally at the tiling stage, which, you know, again, is kind of subjective on how things look and how things are spaced out, etc., etc. One thing I want to emphasize, preparation is everything. Anytime you build a shower, everything that you do as far as putting the niche, the shower valve, how far it goes out, so you have, you know, an area for your tile to hit the mud guard, you know, everything, the prep, the curb, wrapping it, RedGarding, wall board up above the shower pan, all that stuff is prep, and that's the most important thing. Once the tile goes on, then it just is a matter of how you want it to look. And if it looks good to you because you're doing your own job and there's discrepancies, well, no harm, no foul, because it's still your job. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that too. Alright, here we are the next day. The tile had been set on the wall. And again, this is used for the ledger board. So your tile is set on, oh, by the way, having a ledger board does not preclude you from doing spacing. There's not going to, yes, there's going to be a grout line between the two tile, but there's not going to be a way that you can get your ledger board exactly level. So you're still going to space out. If you can see at the bottom there's a little gap. So I use spacers, and so not only is my ledger board supposedly level, but I have to make sure that my tile is level going up. So every tile that gets set, I put a level on it and make sure that it's level, and then I adjust my spacing at the bottom appropriately. So that's what's going on with that. You can see why I put the cardboard down from yesterday. All this stuff would have hit the floor if I hadn't used the cardboard, so there has to be something down there to make sure that you're straight on that. On a large format tile, you really shouldn't be staggered in the middle, but 99.999% of the time my customers wanted brick pattern staggered in half. And the reason you don't want to do this staggered is because, as you see right here, there's no lippage on this side and there's no lippage on this side, but in the middle there's a very slight lippage on the bottom, because these tile bow a little bit, and because of the bowing of the tile you're going to end up with some slight lippage, but nothing to the extent of some of the videos that I posted with bad tile jobs where that lippage is very profound. I got a little lucky here. Sometimes when you have a border, the mosaic that my customer will choose is very thin opposed to my tile, and it's very difficult to match that up going straight from tile to mosaic. So the way that you would do that is get 1/4 inch backerboard, and you glue the 1/4 inch backerboard to the wall, let that dry, and then you set your mosaic up so that, well, of course your tile is set already, and then you can manipulate your thin set somewhat on a mosaic and get it flush. You could also do it in reverse. You could actually set your mosaic on a piece of backerboard and then put the whole backerboard to the wall and glue that. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. But eventually you want your mosaic flush and flat. So this is what you would use, a float. So when you put your mosaic up, you push it into the thin set that you've applied everywhere you go, so that everything is flush and flat, rather than having individual pieces pop out, or, you know, pop in or pop out or whatever. You just put your float on the whole entire thing. And so that's basically the little things that I can tell you on here. I don't think there's any other information I can give. So I'm going to run the tile up to the ceiling, and then down at the bottom I'll take these ledger boards off, as I said before, caulk in those holes, and then run my bottom tile as well as doing my curb area. So that's what I can give you right now. If I come up with some other little tricks or tips, then I will post them in the next video.